And without further ado, let's stand up and let's welcome to the stage for the final talker of the day, Mr. Patrick Cadei.
Thank you very much.
That's a song. That's a song. How are we? You know, I was listening to Bara before and he said, how lucky am I? Right? And I really like that part. When Bara was like, how lucky am I to have this type of life? How grateful am I to live in this type of life? And I was thinking about exactly the same thing. You know why? Because I was raised by my parents back in Switzerland, and I never been good with languages. Like in Switzerland, we study French, we study German, and we study English since a very young age, and I was very good at everything else, but with languages, I just couldn't get it. Right? It got to the point where I was skipping all the classes. It got to the point where literally the English language was my worst nightmare. Has anybody been there with any other topic at school, by the way? Like, I was afraid. I used to meet my teacher sometimes in the corridor. He said something in English. My answer was always yes. And I was absolutely terrified. I failed every single exam when it came to the English language. And by the end, my teacher just told me, you know what, Patrick, you just got to accept. You just got to accept the fact that you don't have this. Some people have it. You're one of those who don't. And for a long time, I believed them, right? I finished university and I believed that teacher. I used to say to my friends and I used to say to my parents, hey man, I'm good at a lot of stuff. I can public speak. I'm good with numbers. I'm good with, I understand entrepreneurship pretty well. But when it comes to languages and especially when it comes to English, I just don't have that. And I need to accept it. And then one day I was sitting in my living room and I was thinking about my goals. And you need to know one thing about me. I love entrepreneurship, I believe, more than anybody else in this room. Like, I fucking love it. I live it, I breathe it. I'm one of those guys that if you go to the bar and you start having a conversation with, all I talk about is entrepreneurship, because I'm going to be honest, I'm not interested in talking about anything else. Like, I'm one of those. I have such a severe passion for the game. And since I was a little kid, I always wanted to be a billionaire. You ask me why? Because to me, becoming a billionaire is like winning the Champions League for a football club. It's just the Hall of Fame. It's when you can look at everybody and you can say, you know what? I won the fucking game. And I care about the game so much that I always wanted to do that. So one day I'm sitting in my living room and I had this realization. I'm like, Patrick, you're going to be honest with yourself. If you don't learn English, which is how the world communicates, you're never going to get there. You're just going to be like your father. My father is a successful entrepreneur, but he just became successful in the Italian side of Switzerland because he can't speak any other language. And I was like, you're just going to be like him. You're just going to be like him. He's been complaining about living there for the last 4 years. And I was terrified about that. So I took a step. And I made a decision, and my decision was simple. I stood up one day and I said, fuck you, English teacher. I'm going to move to England right now. I'm going to do my best to learn English. I'm going to go there for 6 months. I'm going to push my comfort zone. And 10 years later, not only I can communicate in English right now, but I made millions of dollars by communicating in English right now. And speaking in English, and people make fun of me. They're like, ha, your accent. And I say, ha, your bank account. And I'm serious. And I'm very serious. So next time you make fun of my accent, just watch out for your bank account. Pull that out, right? But I'm extremely grateful for that. And I guess this is not even remotely related to the topic of my speech as always. But before I even start my speech, I just want to give everybody a reminder. Don't ever let anybody tell you what it is that you can and cannot do. Because sometimes your best friends, sometimes even your teammates, sometimes even your leader, sometimes even your manager, sometimes your mom, sometimes your father, sometimes whoever are going to try to reflect their insecurities onto you. because they don't believe that they can be special, and therefore indirectly, without even realizing, they just want to hold everybody else down. Because seeing other people stepping through that barrier that they couldn't destroy themselves is going to make them feel very uncomfortable. Don't ever let anybody tell you what it is that you can and cannot do. If I can stand here, and I came in this country as an immigrant with $500 in my pocket, with a working holiday visa, with no friends, with no connection, with my family living on the other side of the planet, and I missed a lot of things over the last 10 years, and I managed to do this, and I managed to become a multi-millionaire, and I managed to do the cool stuff that everybody wants to do. My message to everybody in this room is simple: you can fucking do it too. Okay. You can fucking do it too. But you got to understand that it's going to take work. You got to understand that it's going to be an effort. You know what Jeremy talked about today, what Barry talked about today. You got to do all these things because success leaves clues. It actually does. But some people are not looking for the clues. Some people are just constantly, persistently, and consistently looking in the same old fucking direction. And sometimes what you got to do is simple. You got to slap yourself. You got to be like, man, I've been looking to this side for so long. Maybe I need to look somewhere else. Maybe I need to pick different examples. Maybe I need to rewire my brain. Maybe I need to stop being cocky. Maybe I need to stop living with excuses. And if I can do that, I can live an amazing life. Does that make sense to everybody? That's all I wanted to say. That's all I wanted to say. You know, not much has changed for me since then. I love have the privilege to be on this stage in front of all of you today. And my hope, as per usual, is very simple. If I can manage to rewire one brain today, okay, one brain, if I can manage to get one person today that as a consequence, not just of my speech, but as a consequence of Jeremy, Barrett, and Patrick, is a cumulative effort here, by the way. Do you guys understand that? As a consequence of this cumulative effort that we're deploying together today, if we can get one person, excellent. If we can get two, fucking amazing. If we can get three, absolutely incredible. Because what is the power of one person, by the way? It's simple. Everybody is in this room today because of three people. Originally, it's because of three people. Imagine three more people like that, we double the room. So the goal today is to multiply people as much as we possibly can. Are we on the same page with that? Okay. You know, Jeremy has talked about how to humanize the pitch. Jeremy has talked about how to robotize. I don't even know if you can say that. Your mentality, your planning, and your law of average, how to become a robot, how to become a cyborg in all the other areas. Barrett has been talking about how to build incredible teams. My message is simple. If you have a team right now that doesn't do sales, okay, you got a team right now that you're like, man, I'm not happy with the averages, just do what Jeremy said. It's as simple as that. If you got a team right now that is doing sales, but you're struggling to grow and you're always losing people along the way, and you've gone through the same cycle for too long, just do what Barrett just fucking said. That was my strength back in 2019. I didn't question things. Somebody told me what to do. I just fucking did it. Does that make sense? Yeah. One of my favorite videos of all time is a video of Dan Pena that is teaching a sales script. I don't personally know much about Dan Pena, but I love that video because he gives to everybody in the room a script. And then a person goes, excuse me, sir, but there is a misspelling error. And then Pena goes, shut the fuck up, you poor piece of shit. You know, you are poor for a reason because you always have something to say back. If there is a spelling error, you fucking say the word as it's written and shut up. I'm not going to get to that stage, but too many people are opinionated. Too many people are like, hey, I like what Barrett said over there, but you know what? I'm going to add my own flavor to it. Well, that's why you're broke. If you are broke. Not everybody. You got to stop adding your flavor to it. I'm serious, man. I always say this to people when they bring new ideas. I'm like, I love the idea, but first do this. Show me that you can at least do this. Then we discuss the ideas. There is a time for innovation, and before bringing innovation, you got to prove the foundations. I'm going to repeat. There is a time for innovation, but before pushing for innovation, you got to prove the foundation. Are we on the same page with that one? If you got a team that does sales, but your attention is not where it needs to be, then it's going to be my topic, okay? I love what the speakers today have said so far. Did you guys love it too, by the way? Can we give them another round of applause, by the way? Right? I was impacted myself. I was impacted. I took so much notes. I'm going to network with my business partners later on, myself, because I'm like, man, there are things there that I'm missing, things there that I don't know. You know, I realized when Barry was speaking there, for a long time I got away with the following excuse, which is, I know that going to the gym is beneficial, but from a scientific standpoint, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know to break it down. I saw the way he explained it today, and I'm like, I got to pick up my game. I got to get better because he can do it, so I can do it too. Does that make sense to everybody? So the question so far that we got to ask ourselves is this. Are we contributing positive to the mission and to the culture? Write this down. Am I, me personally, contributing positive to the mission of and the culture of this organization? Am I a person that is helping the company moving forward? Is the boat going faster because of me? That's the question. Okay. And guys, I strongly encourage everybody in this room right now because this is the last topic of the day. And I know what happens at the last topic of the day, especially after lunch. What does usually happen, by the way? You see people yawning, you see people switching off, especially when things are going to get technical, because I need to apologize for something today. For those of you that know my public speaking style, usually I do this. I take you through a journey. Okay, I take you through a conceptual journey, and everybody is so involved, and everybody fucking loves it. But today I'm not going to do that. Today I'm going to be more technical. Okay, today I'm going to be more technical. And before I get started, I want to tell you something. The biggest sign of poverty is the following. When things get technical, you disengage. If not the biggest, one of the biggest. It's one of the biggest signs of poverty. When the topic gets technical, people disengage. Because people don't like technical stuff, do they? What do we watch on Netflix? What do we watch on Amazon Prime? Do we watch documentaries about how to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, or do we watch Game of Thrones? You know the answer to that question. People love to be entertained. But when it comes to learning and studying and mastering technical skills, they're not as interested, because when it comes to technical topics, you need to put in a lot of effort in order to internalize the information and make them yours. Does that make sense to everybody? And do you want me to prove you this? I'll prove it. Is that cool? If you go on YouTube, don't do it right now. I'll tell you can do it later. And you go on YouTube and you search lifestyle of a billionaire, you're going to see 3.4 million views. And then you search how to become a billionaire, and you're going to see 96,000 views. So there are 35 times more people, or 35x people more interested to know how a billionaire lives than the people interested to know how to fucking become one. And isn't that paradoxical in the first place? What do you guys say? Yeah. Exactly. So are we ready to get started? Yeah. So everybody stand up for a second. Everybody stand up for a second. As per usual, especially because this is the last speech of the day, I'm going to need everybody to be with me. Can you guys give me that? Yeah. Can you guys give me that? Yeah. In return, I give you everything that I have. In return, we're going to go through some technical stuff today that not only are beneficial if you are in the field, if you want to build a team, if you're an owner, but even if you come from separate businesses, the shit that I'm going to give you today can change your whole entire game. So are we all engaged for that? Yeah. And before we get started, can everybody give me a proper round of applause just to help me build the energy? All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much, thank you very much. You can sit down. So let's get started then, building an army. We've been talking about how to become an elite soldier, how to become invincible. We've been talking about how to shape and develop a mission that you and your team are willing to die for, right? And right now is the last topic of the day. If you got elite people, right? If you got a mission that we're all working towards, now is how do we build an undefeatable army? And that's the next topic of the day. Now, before we get into this topic, guys, I want to ask you a very simple question. We know the mission of Community Collective, okay? We know the mission of Community Collective. The mission is to help young individuals to gain the tools that they need to succeed in life. Is that a pretty worthy mission, by the way? Yeah. Right? The mission is to help young individuals removing self-doubt and developing unwavering confidence in themselves. Because let's be honest, isn't self-doubt very evil? It is, right? And that's what people suffer with. That's the mission. And we do that by teaching people how to sell. We do that by teaching people how to have amazing physical and mental habits. So if you've been wondering about how do I keep my sales consistency, it's simple, physical and mental habits. And we do that by teaching people how to become the best version of themselves and ultimately how to become unbelievable leaders. I want everybody to reflect on something, by the way. Do you remember the first special moment that you guys had in this business? If you look back, okay, because the real beauty of our business is simple. I don't know if anybody else can relate in the room. I'm going to tell you my story. Before this business, I used to give up on everything. Serious. Started basketball when I was a kid, and then I gave up. Then I started something else that I can't even remember, and then I gave up. Then I started rapping for 8 years. I got good. I did 46 freestyle competitions. I won 44. One of the top Italian labels came to sign me up as a rapper. Who knows what my life could have been? But guess what I did even back then? I gave up. I found some sort of excuse not to do it. And then I found this business. And I'm like, man, this business is so structured. All the steps are ahead of me. And I got the first promotion, and then the second, and then I got the third. And then I had a group of people around me that kept telling me, Patrick, you're going to make it. 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 And I remember there was a moment, there was a point where I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to fucking make it. Maybe I can be special too. Maybe I can get promoted. Maybe I can get to the top. Has anybody experienced that special moment before, by the way? Okay, raise your hand if you had. Raise your hand if you had. Okay, and if you haven't, you will. But that's what we do. That's what this company is all about. This company is built to create these special moments. Is everybody on the same page? Yeah. Well, so why should we grow? Because we talked about growth today. We talked about expansion. Yes, growth and expansion is going to be good for you, but what else? Is growing gonna benefit other people outside in the world right now? What do you guys think? If we grow more, can we benefit other businesses out there in the real world? What do you guys think? Because the reality is this, we look at people for a second, okay? Before making an investment, by the way, you need to know your numbers. Write it down. Because when you start working hard, what is that really? It's an investment. So if you're like, man, I want to master sales. Well, the first question that you should ask yourself is this: why should I master sales? Why should you? Don't listen to me. Don't listen to your leader. They just tell you, you know what? Work hard, man. Take this very seriously. No, your question is to be, why should I? Why should I? Why should I? And to answer to that question, you need to know your numbers. Does that make sense? Yeah. Well, the stats are simple, man. 70% of billionaires. You can read a book. It's called The Self-Made Billionaire Effect. They've done a research. They developed a case study where they have studied more than 500 billionaires worldwide. Is that a pretty good study, by the way? Is that a pretty good size? And what they found is that 70% of those billionaires started from direct sales. Is that pretty good to know? So the next time that you meet somebody earning $400 a year or some shit like that and tells you at the door, go and get a real job, you're not going to get affected. Because Bill Gates wouldn't tell you to go and get a real job, would it? Elon Musk wouldn't tell you to go and get a real job. Andrew Tate wouldn't tell you to go and get a real job. The real players, the heavy hitters that will shake your hand and be like, I admire you. I love your work ethic. That pitch was incredible. And that's all you need to know. Are we on the same page for that? Yeah. Like, I remember even when I was knocking, I was in a suburb one day. You know, like these suburbs that you're like, man, I hope I'm never going to end up like this. Been there before? Right? I was there and I'm like, everyone was so negative and I don't know, everything was falling apart. And I was like, whatever. The day after, I was in an opposite situation. I went to this suburb, Ferraris, Porsches, Rolls Royce, you know, one of those. And a lot of people, when they go in rich areas, they're intimidated, right? They're like, man, they're going to abuse me. People are going to be very hard on me. I was excited because I'm like, man, these people drive Ferraris. Maybe I can learn something valuable today. And I started knocking on doors, and a guy came out, 2 Ferraris parked there. I pitched the guy. The guy goes, listen, man, I'm going to be honest. I don't need your product, but can I say something? And I'm like, what? He said, well done. You're incredible. You're one of the best salespeople that came to my door that I ever met in my whole entire life. Was that a good moment for me? Right? I met somebody else that was running a bakery, a luxury bakery. She purchased not 1 alarm system. I was selling alarm system at the time. She bought 3 alarm systems. And then at the end, she sat me down and she said, you know what? You remind me of something. Me and my sister, right now we got this multi-million-dollar empire. But when we started, we used to bake cakes and then go around door to door with the cake in a fucking box and try to sell them door knocking. These are the stories that reinforce the narrative in my own mind. Is everybody following me so far? Yeah. I call my father. My father raised me in a very good way. He never gave me money. But my father is worth $100 million. Give it up to my father, right? What a guy. I called him one day and I'm like, hey man, like I'm doing this job. Some people tell me that I should get a real job. What should I do? And he says, tell these people to go and fuck themselves. Learn how to sell, son, and trust me, it's a good choice. And if you do it well, in 3 years from now, you will become a millionaire. I remember 3 years later when I picked up the phone and I said, Dad, I just want to let you know, I became a millionaire. And he goes, well done, hang up, right? Okay. Well, the reality is that most jobs, people will argue and say, well, but you know, sales is only important if you want to build a business, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. I can debate with those people too. Because the reality is that whatever job you pick, or most jobs, okay, you spend 50 to 70% of your time communicating anyway. You can be an electrician. We got an electrician in the room today. And if you know how to communicate and sell, is that going to help? Is that going to help getting you more referrals? Is that going to help signing up the neighbors next to the house that you're doing the work for? Does that make sense? If you're a lawyer, oh, I'm a lawyer, I'm not in sales. Really? You're one of the biggest salesperson ever. I'm working at calls, I'm in customer service. Now you're in sales. Whatever job you want to pick, man, 50 to 70% of your time you communicate with other people, and ultimately you're trying to convince other people to make a certain decision. Is everybody with me? Why is it beneficial to people? Some people will argue and say, fuck door knocking, man, I want to be the next worldwide influencer. Fucking go for it. You got my love for that. But the reality is this, 80% of content nowadays is videos. So if you want to be the one talking in the videos, guess what you need to learn first? You need to learn how to communicate. And once you know how to communicate, are you going to create better videos, by the way? Yeah. Of course. The reality is 51%, they've done a study, 51% of single people that are not single by choice, they're afraid of rejections. 51%. I always look at that shit and I'm like, man, imagine how many good people are out there in the world right now. That if that woman or that man knew how good of a person they were, they will actually be together. They would be in a relationship. Maybe they're made for each other. They may be in a bar right now. One is sitting there and one is sitting there. They might be the perfect couple. They could have had 7 kids and live a perfect life. But they never will. Because the man sitting at that table is going to keep looking at the woman and he's going to be like, nah, not today. And he's going to go home. While some other man that knows how to sell is going to look at that woman and be like, you know what, I'm going to go up and talk to her. And because of that decision, because of that simple act of overcoming the fear of rejection, they might end up having 7 kids and live the best life together. Do you guys ever think about that shit, by the way? Because I always do. Maybe I'm weird. The reality is 94% of employers, they value leadership traits more than anything else. And that's what we teach. The reality is this. The leadership roles, they experience an 82% higher level of satisfaction than any other job out there. So the bottom line is this. Do people need to know what it is that we teach? Yes. Do people need to know what it is that we teach? Yes. And what about companies? What about companies? Sorry, before companies. Top 3 fears. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of uncertainty. You can go on ChatGPT right now if you want. And you ask ChatGPT, what are the 3 biggest human fears? These are the 3 biggest human fears. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, and fear of uncertainty. When you do sales, do you overcome the fear of failure? Yes. When you do sales, do you overcome the fear of rejection? Yes. When you do sales, do you overcome the fear of uncertainty? Absolutely, because every single fucking day you gotta go out there and hunt. And never let anybody tell you that what you do is not a real job. And if anybody does, just show them this slide, and then they're gonna shut the fuck up. The next question is, do companies need what we do? Well, let's look at the numbers, even for this, right? Numbers. Gen Z, who knows what the Gen Z actually means? Does everybody know? Gen Z, if I'm not mistaken, are people right now up until the age of 28 years old. Is that correct, Barrett? Gen Z, 28 years old. Okay, who's 28 and under? 1996. Okay, let's give out 28 just for the sake of it. Or who wants to Google it? Who wants to Google it? 28. Okay. Who's older than 28 years old? Raise your hand. Okay. So keep your hand up. Keep your hand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We got 17 people in the room that are older than 28 years old. That means that pretty much 90% of the people in the room are Gen Z. Do you guys follow me? But the employers out there, they haven't understood one thing, man. They haven't understood this. Gen Z, right now, they do have options. Do we agree on that one, by the way? We do have options. We have social media. There are 1 million courses out there. There are millions different businesses that we can entertain. And the reality is this. Gen Z, they are not looking for jobs anymore. Gen Zs, they want to be part of worthy causes. And they only want to work within infrastructures that are going to give them the tools to do something meaningful in life. Do you Gen Z agree with this one, by the way? Right? The Gen Z, they don't have anymore the idea, you know, when you speak to your parents and they tell you, just get a corporate job and do it until the age of 67 years old. Is anybody here finding that idea inspiring, by the way? Okay, nobody here. Gen Z have understood that. Some people will argue, Patrick, you're just saying it. How do you know? Well, there was a study that actually showed that since COVID, there's been a 500% increase in the number of Gen Zs that are not longer looking for a fucking job. Is that pretty remarkable? Okay, there was another study that was conducted that shows that 50% of Gen Z, they quit their corporate job between 3 to 6 months. Is that pretty alarming? There was another study that was conducted that shows that the turnover cost in Australia alone is $3.8 billion a year. With the bees, that's a lot of money. And one person, in average, costs $20,000 every single time that you turn over one employee. Is that a lot of money, by the way? Then you look at us. And Community Collective, we have 90% of our team is Gen Z. It's kind of paradoxical, is it not? Because everybody out there tells us, hey, Gen Z are going to quit right away. Gen Z are lazy. They're not appreciative. They're not grateful. They will cheat on you. Silent quitting is a trend on TikTok. They don't want to work hard. They have no goals. They're lazy. They're ungrateful. And the list goes on. But at the same time, we're sitting here and we're like, hey, wait. We are working with 90% Gen Zs, and we raise more than $100 million a year for our clients, and we turn over more than $25 million a year for our companies, and we create financial freedom, and we promote people, and the list goes fucking on. How fucking good is that, by the way? Not only that, not only we work with Gen Zs, but how weird sometimes are we from the perspective of the outside world? You guys ever thought about that? When you're with your friends and you're like, sorry, bro, can't come for the beer, I got to pick up a networking call. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Not only we have Gen Z, but we got people that are out of their own initiative. So the market says Gen Z don't want to work. And then for us, we got people, Gen Z, the lazy people, right? That out of their own initiative, they decide to extra mile. Nobody told them to do it. Okay? Who has extra mile here over the last week? Keep your hand up if either me or Jeremy, your direct boss, is giving you a call, force you to extra mile, and be like, if you don't extra mile, you lose your job. Goose, fucking hell, Braden. Okay, give Goose a round of applause. What a guy, Goose. What a guy. Okay? That is the unusual fact. Not only we are 90% Gen Zs, but we have people extra miling. What else? We got people coming in on a Saturday out of their own initiative. How weird is that? And the Gen Zs, you know, the market says the Gen Zs want to work 28 hours a week. The market says the Gen Zs don't want jobs and whatever. But for some fucking magical, unexplainable reason, we got people coming in on a Saturday. Isn't that pretty fucking crazy? We got Gen Zs going on road trips. Like this week. This week is a road trip. How phenomenal has this week been? And not only they are coming to the road trip, but they are competing with other offices and with other team with their teeth as if their life fucking depended on it. So the market is saying that Gen Zs are lazy. Community Collective is saying that Gen Zs are fucking liars. So who the fuck is right? You know, I remember there was a time, unfortunately this man is no longer alive, there was a fashion executive that came to my office on a Saturday one day. It just happened that Saturday there were 40 people in the office. I didn't know why they were there. Like, I wasn't running a topic, I wasn't doing anything. But one of those mornings, like, you walk into the office, it was a Saturday, there were people doing sales presentations upstairs, there were some people doing role plays, there were people networking in a corner, there were people doing this, people doing that. I just walked in, and I was just like, hello, hello, hello. This fashion executive, this guy that is running the largest fashion event in Australia, connected with multi-billionaires worldwide, comes into my office and is like, can I ask you one question, man? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, first of all, where do you find those people? I'm like, where do you find them? Because right now we are hiring for the Melbourne Fashion Festival. They're all lazy. We can't find anybody good. Like, where do you find it? Do you have a specific job platform that you use? Do you have a specific ad that you use? And in my head, I'm like, this man is not getting it. Because culture is that intangible force that is going to piss the competitors off, is it not? Because everyone comes in and they wonder, where do they find them, man? As if we just go on the street and we're like, oh, there you go, Jack. Yeah, come and work with us. And he's like, of course. That's not how it works, and you guys are aware of that. People are not found, people are made. Is everybody with me on that one? And then he asked me a second question. He's like, man, can I ask you another question? I'm like, go for it, man. How do you force people to come in on a Saturday with his evil face? No, I'm joking. He didn't have an evil face. And I'm like, man, this guy fully missed the point. Because his question is, how do you force people to come in on a Saturday? When the question should have been, how do you create an environment that allows people to perform at their personal best? That should be the question. That is what we do. Is everybody with me so far? Right? Because why does this happen, guys? Why are we all here today? Why are we all so supportive towards each other? Why do we have this networking going on? Why do we have these competitions going on? Why do we have people dreaming in this room like they've never done before? It's simple. Because of our culture. Isn't this an incredible culture? Because of our culture, because of the progression that we have. Isn't that true? Who loves the progression that we have, by the way? Right? Because of that. That's why we manage to do what we do. Because of the development that we have. Who feels that by working here, and be honest, that as a consequence of working here, you have become a better person in life? Okay? Because that's real, is it not? I always say this to people, and I believe it. When people say, man, we provide the biggest opportunity ever. You get promoted with us is the best financial fucking opportunity ever. And I'm like, I'm never going to say that shit. Because for me to tell you that this is the best financial opportunity ever, the assumption is that I know all the other financial opportunities out there. Do you guys understand? But I don't. I'm not God. I don't know everything that is going on. But what I can promise is this. If you work with us for 6 fucking months, 6 months, and you take it seriously, and you study, and you apply yourself, your whole entire life is going to be changed forever. Do you guys believe that? Yeah. Because I see it day in and day out. There are people that used to work with us a decade ago, and they're still sending us messages. And be like, man, what you told back then is still with me right now. I got my dream partner because you told me the law of average, maybe. When I started, yeah, whatever, that's a story. That's a story for another time, maybe. I became financially free because you told me how to work hard. I got the friends that I always wanted to have because you told me how to communicate. I took care of my mom because you told me not to be a coward. Whatever it may be. Are these things cool to do, by the way? Who would like to look after their mom, by the way? Okay. You can do it. You can do it. What else do we have? Well, we have the chance to make money. We have the chance to create amazing friendships and connections. We have the chance to have fun here. We have an amazing vision here. Are you guys with me on this one? But what most people will think about this room, you know what's funny about us? That if you go out there right now and you stop somebody in the street and you tell them, hey, what we do for a living is outsourcing sales. Okay, we do direct sales, could either be on the phone, shopping center, door knocking, or whatever it might be. How would they describe our environment without knowing? What are some of the terminologies that they will use and some of the words that they will utilize to describe us and our culture and our team? What do you guys think? What's that? A call, but without meeting us, without coming in the room. If you ask to a stranger, hey, we do door knocking, cold calls, shopping centers, we have 150 people. What do you think that we look like? What would they say, Rory?
Egotistical pressure sellers.
Egotistical pressure sellers. Who else? Who else in the room? Jeremy?
I couldn't do that. How do you do that? It's hard.
Couldn't do that. That's hard. Who else? Annoying. Yeah? What else? What's that? I don't understand what that means, but I'm sure it's fun. I'm sure it's fun, okay? Hey, I'm sure some of the words that they will use is this. Some of the words that they will use is this. Hey, I'm sure that everybody at that company looks miserable because that job is really hard. Is it not? Like for most people, handling the rejections that we handle on a daily basis is unthinkable. Do you guys ever think about that? In a week, we face more rejections than what the average person does in 1 year. Have you guys ever thought about that for a second, by the way? Isn't that crazy? And then sometimes we believe the lies, and we're like, man, go and get a real job, and we're like, oh, you're right. But when you think, and you're like, wait a second, man, in a week I face more rejections than what you do in a year. For some people, compared to some people, in a week we face more rejections than what a person does in a fucking lifetime. That's what they will say. They will say that, oh, surely people look miserable. Surely you got a bunch of desperate employees. Wouldn't they say that? Because when you describe to people what it is that we do and they don't know how we actually do and who we actually are, their first thought would be, man, everybody in that room must be desperate for a job. Isn't that true? Look around. Make eye contact at your table right now. Do you see anybody desperate? Okay. But I'm gonna ask the question that I asked at the beginning of the topic. If everybody in your room was in your team right now, would you be happy? NASA, you come from an external industry. If everybody in this room was in your team right now, would you be happy? Giacomo, if anybody was in your team right now, would you be happy? Tyson, what about you? Would you be happy if everybody in this room was in your team? That's what I mean. People think that we are desperate, but I don't see any fucking desperation around. People will think that we have no culture, but we have the best culture that you ever seen. People will think that there is no loyalty here, but there is more loyalty than you ever seen. People will say that this is not a real job. Well, you give me the fucking definition of what a real job is in the first place, because what is the definition of a job? Well, to those that say that this is not a real job, what else is a job? We raise hundreds of millions of dollars for our clients. We turn over $25 million a year. Is that the definition of a real job from your point of view, by the way? Yeah. Right? That's the magical part about what it is that we do. So is it worth it? Because we're going to be talking about how to build an army, and I haven't even got into that part. But the question that we got to ask ourselves is this. Now that we know all of this, okay? Now that we know all of this, now that we know why it's beneficial for people to master sales, now that we know why it's beneficial for companies to also learn what it is that we do, is it worth doing it? Well, you know what the answer is. Is it better to be bigger, by the way? Yeah. Right? Would it be cool next year for this fucking room to triple in size? Would that be a good feeling? Yeah. Would it be cool next year not just to have Patrick, Jeremy, and Barrett, as always, on stage, but to have somebody else speaking next year? Would that be cool? Because I don't know about you guys, but when I was sitting on those tables, I was only thinking about one thing. First of all, well done. Second of all, fuck you. Third, I want to take your job. That's it. You guys need to think like that. Because I'm like, you heard us before. Hey, the topic may be new. The slideshow might be innovative. But we've been here before. It's the same 3 people that were there the end of the year conference last year. The same 3 people that were there 1 year ago. Doesn't this piss you off a little bit? Right? Because if you triple in size, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have the opportunity to be the person here on stage who would like to do that, by the way. Right? Is getting bigger worth it? Is being international a good thing, by the way? Who likes the idea of expanding international? Right? For me, in my head, I keep thinking Dubai. I keep thinking Dubai because it's 1 direct flight from Australia. In 6 hours, you are in Europe. In 14 hours, you are in the United States. Is that a good location to be? Would it be cool to be international? When you're like, man, I'm just going to go and visit another office in Dubai for the weekend. Would that be a cool fucking thing? I would love it. And you will love it. You know that. Would it be cool to also help and support other businesses? Right? Because I'm sure you guys have friends that when you catch up with them, they say, man, I don't like my job anymore. Do you have any of those? That are like, I hate my boss. I hate the culture. I'm working so hard on my job right now, but I'm not going anywhere. I can't grow. I can't progress. Would it be cool to go to these businesses and be able to teach them this intangible energy that we have here that is the company culture? Would that be good? Yeah. Everything is within our reach. Everybody in this room can benefit from doing this. My question to everybody is always the same. Why not? Why not testing your limits, guys? Why not testing your limits? Why not seeing how far it is that you can actually go? I saw a video from Jordan Peterson a while back, and he says this. He says, if you are in your 20s, you should test your limits. You need to test, and you need to establish how far it is that you can go. Do it then. Do it when you don't have much responsibilities. Do it when you are experiencing your highest energy levels. Do it then. Why not? What's the worst that can possibly happen anyway? Is it worth it to experience financial freedom? Who's serious about that? Because I can tell you one thing. Okay? When I became a millionaire for the first time and I called my dad, that was cool. But do you know what was really cool? It was really cool when my mom got evicted from her apartment because she couldn't afford rent anymore. And I gave her an address. And I said, just go to this address, Mom. And she's like, to do what? And I'm like, just go. And she went to that address. And then I said, just open the mailbox, Mom. And she was like, what for? There are some keys here. What do I do with those? And I said, just put it in the front door, Mom. She's like, but whose house is this? And I just heard the keys, Mom. And then she walks. She was like, this is amazing. Did you buy me a holiday? And I said, no, we bought you a house. You see, when I was in your shows and I heard somebody saying things like this, I admire those people. Those people were my heroes. I was like, man, like, I really want to do that. Like, I mean it. I really want to give back to my family. I really want to look after the people that have supported me along the way. Who feels like that? But deeply, deeply. I admire those people. I had a lot of respect for those people. And that's why when those people spoke, I put my ego on the side, and I was like, man, that would be my biggest dream. Imagine. And that's why you guys got to pay attention, because if you're really serious and you internalize everything that we said today, you can be one of those people too. Does that make sense to everybody?